Hi, my name is Haruna Hosokawa from BPSTechnology, and I am here today to tell you a little bit about Google Forms. Google Forms is a tool for people to create and fill out surveys or questionnaires online. And they could be used in class as a questionnaire or a quiz, or you could use it to survey other population like parents, for example. So I am in my Google Drive right now. And to create a new form, you would simply click on New and go down to More and click on Forms. That opens up a blank form. And you would probably want to title your form. And say I'm going to call this Sample Form. And this title is tied to your file name up here. You can change it if you like, but by default it will make them the same name. You can enter a description. This is optional. If you enter a description, the user will have a little bit more details about what to do. So I could say something like, please fill out this form. By default, it comes out with one question to begin. You could click on that to start editing that question. Now you have a lot of options for types of question to use. Short answer is like your name. Paragraph would be a longer text entry, like if, please tell me something you have learned in this webinar. Multiple choice is obviously multiple choice that you could select one answer from. Check boxes are similar to multiple choice, but you could have more than one answer. Drop down is similar to checkboxes and multiple choice, except your choices are shown in a drop down format and not listed as multiple choice and checkboxes. File upload gives the user an option to upload a file when they get to that point of the survey. Linear scale is something like having a scale from 1 to 10, for example. Multiple choice grid is similar to linear scale, but you can have multiple entries or multiple questions within a question. Date and time will give you a box as well as an option to click on a calendar to fill out the date. So you could select any of these question formats. I'm going to call my first question name. And what you will notice is that Google will self-select a format for you. So as soon as I entered name, it put in short answer for the question format. And you could change this if you don't like that, but it will try to guess the best format for what you have put in. Anytime you see this image icon, you can also add an image. So you could do something like, please look at this image and tell me what you think about it. And when you click on this image icon, there will be an option to upload or to include a picture from your Google Drive or include through a link. And you can include any image that you like as part of the question. You could also insert images as part of the multiple choice. So you could have 3 different images and say pick out the best image from here, for example. Anytime you have a question, you can decide whether it's required or not. If you set this to be required, the user will not be able to submit the form until they put something in this question. The trash bin here is to delete the question, and this icon here is to duplicate the question. Sometimes it's faster if you duplicate the question than to just add the question. Some extra options, if you click on these 3 dots over here, you can add a description to each question to give further instruction to the user. And there is also something called data validation. So this could be something like your entry has to be a number, or your entry has to be between a certain number. It could set up some validations for you. If you're happy with that question, we could go ahead and add a second question. And to add a question, you click on the plus icon on the right. And again, you can choose what questions to do. Let's say I will do multiple choice, and I'm going to say your grade. And sometimes when you type in a question, it will suggest some choices for you. And in this case, since I put in grade, it suggested a list of four choices. I could use these or ignore the suggestions and keep on going. So if I say add all, it puts it right in. You do have the option to delete them if you don't like them. Maybe this was for elementary schools. I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you want the option for users to have the other option, then you need to click on add other, and that will be put in as well. Okay, so that's for multiple choice, and drop down and checkboxes work pretty much the same way as well. And you can also add text, image, or video as part of your survey without having it be a question. So these could be like a section header or just an image like a logo, company logo, school logo, things like that to customize your form. You can also add sections. Now sections is basically a separate page within your survey. So maybe you want to have one section to input personal information and then a second page to input something else. Or you could also add sections so that depending on what you put in as an answer to a multiple choice, it jumps to a different section within the survey. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I will go ahead and add a section. I'm going to call this grade 1 questions. And just for the sake of time, I am not going to add a new question. And I'm going to add a second section or a third section that says grade 2 questions. So now I have 3 sections. The first section, which was the name and grade, and then a section for grade 1 and a section for grade 2. And if I were making the complete form, I'd keep on going until I have 5 of these things. Now, in this multiple choice, I can say go to section based on answer. And I can say if you answered grade 1, I want you to go to grade 1 questions. If you answered grade 2, then I would like you to go to grade 2 questions. And let's say for the sake of time, I'm going to say submit form for all other grades. So let's say if you're grade 3, 4, or 5, you don't have to you don't have any other section to fill out. Okay. And after grade 1 questions, I would like to submit the form. After first section, I'll submit the form. So when you have multiple sections and you start to set these navigation options, it's very important to make sure that after I finish grade 1 questions, I don't send the user to grade 2 questions. I submit the form. And I'll show you some other settings, and then I'll show you what this form actually looks like. So after you're done with all the questions, or before or during, you could change the looks of your form by clicking on this color palette. You could select any of these solid colors, or you could select an image by clicking on this image icon. You can select out of pre-selected images that Google has provided, or let's say I'll select this one for now. Or you can upload your own. So if you have an image you'd like to use, you can say upload photos or go to your album and select a picture that way. Once you have selected a picture, it automatically selects a color scheme for you. So unfortunately, you can't choose picture and color. So depending on what you put in as a picture, it'll automatically select a color for you. The eyeball here is a preview option. I'm going to come back to that in a second. The gear is the settings where other settings take place. So under the settings, you have the option to collect email address or not. In this case, I'm not going to. You also have the option to restrict the user to BPS users. By default, this is checked. So if your survey form is going to be filled out by anybody other than BPS users, you need to uncheck this. So for example, if you're using a form that needs to go out to parents. Or maybe even students who don't necessarily want to be logged into BPS account, you need to uncheck this. You can also have give respondents the option to edit after submit and to see summary after they respond. So those are general options. And under presentation, you can show progress bar. That's something that'll appear if you have more than one section. It shows you how many more sections you've got to go. You can also shuffle question order, which might be useful if you're using this as a quiz. And there is an option to show link to submit another form. And then a confirmation message. So confirmation message is a message that users will get after they submit the form. By default, it just says your response has been recorded, but you could also say something like thank you for submitting the form. So I'm gonna change that. And then there is a quizzes tab. So there is an option to make a quiz, a self-scoring quiz using Google Forms. And it only works well if you have multiple choice checkboxes or drop-downs where there is a definitely correct answer. So it doesn't work well if you have text boxes and paragraph entries. But if you have a multiple choice quiz and you'd like to make it into a quiz, you slide this switch over and you will get an option under each question to select the correct answer and assign point values to them. I am not going to do that at the moment, but please feel free to explore this at your own time if you're interested. I'm going to save my options. And after all the options are all set, you're ready to send the form. Now there are 3 different ways to send forms. I'm going to click on send. The first way is to embed it into an email. So you can enter email addresses in here and type in a subject and a message. You can include the form in the email, which means the form will appear right in the body of the email. Or if you don't select this, it will just go out as a link. And so that's one way to share a form. The second way is to send people a link. So if you click on the link up here, you can get a long link or a short link that you can copy and paste into an email or into some other document so that the users can send the form that way. The third way is the embed code. The embed code is used if you have a website or a blog or something like that where you want the form to appear. And then you will cut and paste this embed code into that website or blog. But most typically people will be using either this email option or the link option. Cancel out of that. But before you send the form, you should always check to make sure it looks okay. And especially if you have multiple pages, you need to make sure that the navigation works as you intended. So I'm going to go ahead and preview this form by clicking on this eyeball. Now, so any form has 2 modes. The first mode is this edit mode, the editor mode, and then the form itself. So those are 2 different modes and 2 different links, so just keep that in mind. So from this editor, I click the preview link to get to the form, and this is what the users will actually see when they try to fill out the form. So I had my name, and I have to enter a grade. This is a multiple choice, I can only select one thing. And I've made it so that if I type in grade 1 and hit next, that should take me to the grade 1 question section. And it does. Excellent. If I click on 2, it should take me to the grade 2 questions. Very good. And if I select grade 3, it should take me right to the submit page. So that takes me to the end, submit. So that's exactly how I wanted the form, and now I'm ready to actually send the form. So again, if you create a form, make sure you look through the form and it looks good before you actually send it. So let's say you finish this form and you have gotten responses. I'm going to show you how to look at your responses now. And for that, I'm going into my drive and opening up a form that I have created previously. So I created another form called another sample form earlier today, and I pre-populated them with some responses. So this form, let me just show you the form, has 4 questions. Your name, go ahead and put it in. Favorite color, which is a multiple choice. Favorite animal, which is an open response. Kangaroo. And a favorite number, which is a scale from 1 to 10. I will submit. So once you submit the form, there are a couple of different ways to look at your responses. So in the editor mode, you will see this tab for responses, and you immediately see how many responses have been entered. Right now I have 11 responses. So if you click on that, it will first show you the responses in summary mode, which means you will see a compilation of all 11 responses. And depending on the type of the question, it will show it to you in a different format. So for the text entry, they just made it a big list out of it. So I have 11 names. Favorite color, which was a multiple choice, it's shown as a pie chart. So I can see that 2 people said orange, 1 person said yellow, 3 people said blue, and so on. Favorite animal, which was a open response, it's shown as a bar graph. And the favorite number, which was a scale from 1 to 10, is also showing a bar graph. Now the thing about the summary report is you can see the overall picture of what people have responded, but I don't know who said what. So for example, I know that 1 person said they like cat, but I don't know who that is. And I know that 4 people like the number 7, but again, I don't know who that was. So if you want to see the individual responses, you would click on the individual side, which will then show you each person's response. So I know that Tommy likes blue and likes tiger, and his favorite number is 5. And I can scroll to every respondent that way. So let me go back. So number 2 response was Nick likes black and his favorite animal is okapi, and the favorite number is 8. So you can do that. But from here, it's very difficult to see the whole picture, like how many people like the number 7, for example, that you could see easily in the summary chart. The third option for seeing the response is to copy it into a spreadsheet. So if you click on this green icon here, it creates a new spreadsheet. And it puts it right in your Drive folder. So if I go back to my Drive, it'll pop up right here. And this form is tied to your this spreadsheet is tied to your form. So it is populated with all the responses from the 11 people. The header contains the name of the question, and it also gives you the timestamp of when the responses were entered. And as soon as a new response comes in, it updates this spreadsheet in real time. So if I put in another response, for example, just put in some random things. So I submit another response, and it should pop up here right now. So it pretty much updates in real time. And the nice thing about having it in a spreadsheet now is that you can then rearrange this data in any way you want. So for example, if I go up to name, I can go up to this column top and say sort sheet A through Z. That would alphabetize this data using the name, but it'll also keep the rows together. So for example, what do we say? So Tommy had blue and tiger. So if I resort this alphabetically, Tommy still has blue and tiger. So all the entire row shifts together with the name when you alphabetize this. So you can do something like that to sort your data a little bit better. Maybe you want to sort by the number. I can sort that, and now I have my data sorted as in numbers, and this way I can easily tell how many people likes each number. So having it in a spreadsheet is another nice way to look at your data, and again, it's everything is real time and updated in real time. So another thing I like to show is within your responses section, there are a couple of features I do want to show you. One is this slide switch for accepting responses. If you have the form, but you want to restrict when people can submit responses, you can just slide that switch over and stop accepting responses. So this is useful if you have, like, let's say something that students need to finish by 5 o'clock. And so when 5 o'clock rolls around, you can click on the switch and the form will still be there. And you don't have, it's still in your drive, you don't have to delete it, but the user will not be able to see this anymore. So let's say if I do this and I'm going to hit the preview button, it'll tell me that this form is no longer accepting responses. So nobody will be able to see or enter anything into the form at that time. You can always undo that. The second thing I want to show is you click on these 3 little dots for extra options, and there is an option to get email notifications for new responses. And that will give you an email as soon as somebody has put in a response, so that you know when they came in. So that's another useful option to know. Let me bring myself back to questions. So that's pretty much how to use Google Forms in a nutshell. Thank you for watching. If you need any more resources, the G Suite training icon that's up on the top right is very useful. If you click on that, it will give you all kinds of resources about forms. And you can definitely look through these topics if you'd like to know more about forms. All right, so thank you for watching. This was Haruna Hosokawa from BPSTechnology. Have a good day.